The painting you're about to see is one of the most terrifying images ever created by human hand. And when people stand in front of it for the first time, their reaction is almost always the same. It is the exact question in the title of this video.
What the f*** is this? Well,
Everywhere you look, something horrible, something weird is happening. An army of skeletons is marching across a burning world. A king is dying on the ground while his gold is looted right in front of his eyes. A cart loaded with human skulls rolls over living people. And in the corner, two lovers are playing music, completely unaware that death is standing right behind them, playing along. But here is what almost nobody notices about this painting. The most terrifying thing in it is not the skeletons. It's not the skulls, not the fires, not the cart. The most terrifying thing in this painting is something you cannot see, because it isn't there. The painter deleted it. He removed something that had appeared in virtually every image of death made in Europe for 500 years. Something so fundamental that leaving it out in the year 1562 was the kind of idea people were being executed for. And when you finally see what's missing, you will understand why this might be the most dangerous painting of the 16th century. We will get there, I promise. But first, let's step into this nightmare. This work is called The Triumph of Death. It was painted by the Flemish artist Pieter Bruegel the Elder around 1562, and today it hangs in the Museo del Prado in Madrid. Bruegel is one of the most mysterious great painters who ever lived. We are not certain when or where he was born. Only around 40 of his paintings survive. And for this one, the darkest work of his entire career, we don't even know who commissioned it or why. What we do know is that as a young man, Bruegel made a journey that marked him forever. In the early 1550s, he traveled from the Netherlands all the way down through Italy, reaching the Strait of Messina at the very tip of the country. And according to a long tradition, it was there that he saw something very few painters of his time ever saw. The city of Reggio in flames, after being bombarded by a Turkish fleet. Years later, he made a drawing and a large print showing that exact city burning. Keep that image in mind, because when you look at the horizon of The Triumph of Death and see cities burning in the distance, you may be looking at a memory. To understand this painting, we also have to understand the world it was born into. Bruegel painted it around 1562, in a Europe where death was not an abstraction. Plague was a constant and severe threat. Public executions were part of ordinary city life. The gallows, the breaking wheel, burning at the stake. And in the Netherlands, religious tensions were approaching a breaking point. Just 6 years after this painting was made, the region would explode into a war that lasted 80 years. It is in this climate that Bruegel did something very few artists had ever attempted. He fused two completely different traditions of death into a single image. From the south, the Italian Triumph of Death. Monumental frescoes like the famous one in Palermo, which he may well have seen with his own eyes, where death arrives as one unstoppable force. And from the north, the Dance of Death. Those popular woodcuts where a skeleton comes for each social class, one by one. The king, the bishop, the merchant, the peasant. In this painting, death does not come for them one by one. It comes for all of them, at the same time. Now, we walk into this painting. Let's begin. The first thing that draws our attention is the guide at the center. Death himself riding a gaunt, reddish horse, swinging an enormous scythe, leading his armies against the world of the living. Behind him, skeletons on horseback ride across the landscape, and many see in them an echo of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. In the upper left corner, 2 skeletons pull the ropes of bells. They are ringing the death knell for the entire world. On the right side, we find one of the most disturbing inventions in the whole painting. An enormous trap shaped like a coffin. The living are being herded into it by an army of skeletons advancing behind a wall of coffin lids held up like shields. Now let's move to the bottom left corner, because this is where Bruegel begins to name his victims. The first is a king. He is collapsing to the ground in his armor and his ermine cloak, and a skeleton leans over him, holding up an hourglass in which the sand has run out. His time is over. But look at what's happening next to him. Another skeleton is plundering his barrels of gold and silver coins, and the dying king's hand is still reaching toward his treasure. Even in his final second of existence, he cannot let go. Right beside him, a cardinal collapses as well, and the skeleton holding him up is wearing a red cardinal's hat, the church's own symbol of power, worn by death as a costume, as a joke. Neither the crown nor the church can negotiate with what is coming. A little further on, there's a detail that is genuinely hard to look at. A woman lies dead on the ground with her child still in her arms, and a starving dog is beginning to nibble at it. Bruegel refuses to give us a single place to rest our eyes. Then comes the cart, a wooden wagon loaded to the top with human skulls, rolling forward while its wheels crush people beneath them. And on top of the cart, a skeleton is calmly playing a hurdy-gurdy. Music over the sound of bones. But it's what lies in the path of this cart that hides one of the most brilliant details of the entire painting. 2 fallen women. The woman in red who has fallen in the cart's path holds a slender thread in one hand and a pair of scissors in the other. The dead one lies with a spindle and a distaff, the ancient symbols of the thread of human life. Art historians have identified these figures as Bruegel's version of the Fates, the goddesses of Greek mythology who spin, measure and cut the thread of every human life. Think about what that means. In this painting, even the goddesses who decide our destiny are dying in the mud like everyone else. Death has come for fate itself. And all around these scenes, Bruegel scatters the ordinary deaths of his own century. Skeletons drag people underwater with fishing nets. A pilgrim, a man of faith, has his throat cut mid-journey. A man with a millstone tied around his neck is about to be thrown into a pond, an image lifted almost directly from the Gospels. And in the background, gallows, breaking wheels, a beheading, a burning at the stake. These were not fantasies. These were punishments Bruegel's contemporaries watched with their own eyes, in their own town squares. And that is exactly why this painting terrified them. Which brings us to the bottom right corner, the most famous corner in the painting. Here, a dinner party has just been interrupted. The table is still set. A backgammon board and playing cards have been scattered on the floor. The court jester is crawling under the table, trying to hide. A few of the guests have drawn their swords, the only real resistance anywhere on this panel, and it is completely useless, because the skeletons they are fighting are wrapped in burial shrouds. One skeleton, thinly disguised with a mask, is pouring away the wine. Another, hooded one, is serving the next course to a horrified woman. On the platter, a human skull. Another skeleton aggressively grabs and embraces a struggling woman, a grotesque mockery of courtly romance. And then, at the very edge of all this, we found them. The lovers. A young man playing a lute, a young woman singing beside him from a songbook. They are the only two figures in this entire apocalypse who have not noticed what is happening. The Prado's own description of the painting says it perfectly. Only this pair of lovers remains outside the destiny that they, too, will have to suffer. Because right behind them, a third musician has already joined the duet. A skeleton, playing along with their song. Their music continues, but death is already playing their tune. Now, you need to understand what paintings of death were actually for. For centuries before Bruegel, Europe was covered in images of death. Dance of Death murals on cemetery walls, Last Judgments above church altars, skeletons carved on tombs. And every one of them, no matter how horrifying, came with an exit. In a traditional Last Judgment, Christ sits enthroned at the top of the painting. The dead rise from their graves and the saved ascend into light. In the great Italian frescoes, angels and demons literally fight over the souls of the dying. Even in Holbein's famous Dance of Death, the most brutal, most cynical death series ever printed, the story ends with the Last Judgment. Christ returns. Death's reign is broken. Death always lost in the end. That was the entire point of this art. It was terrifying on purpose, because the terror pointed somewhere. Repent, confess, believe, and death becomes a door, not a wall. Every skeleton ever painted was, in the end, an advertisement for salvation. Now look up at Bruegel's sky. No Christ, no angels, no souls rising, no light breaking through anywhere. Just smoke, drifting up from the burning cities of his memory. Look down at the ground. People fight, flee, hide, cling to their gold, and none of it changes anything. The church bells hang from a dead tree rung by skeletons. The cardinal's hat sits on a skull. The pilgrim dies mid-pilgrimage. And the cross, the one symbol that was supposed to defeat death, has turned into death's own equipment. Bruegel painted an apocalypse and deleted paradise from it.